Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, hello and howdy do. Welcome. It is the first weekend in March, and we will be working on a bunch of small little things today, and maybe some bigger this weekend. Maybe some bigger things. The weather is starting to edge towards the nice side of the spectrum. The long, dark winter is closing to an end. So it means it's time to get out the power tools and make some bases. Yes, the hopper is a big, unwieldy type of kit, and it really needs to be nailed down to a base so that makes it more stable. That, and I've got a nice little simple base for the Batmobile in mind. But that's what we're going to be doing this weekend, plus some more little detail work here and there on the hopper. So let's get to it. Oh, and one more thing I almost forgot. We are going to take another crack at the Derelict. We will be trying to get a suitable finish on it. Well, good morning. It is Saturday, and we are working on details on the hopper this weekend. And now that these have had a whole week to dry in and cure and all of that kind of stuff, we are today dealing with this egregious gap. This gaposis here, which is not made any better by painting these two different colors. That only points out how bad that gap is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is take some of the trusty tulip, and I'm going to trowel it in there and act like a bandage. And I'm going to see if I can make it look like an intentional gasket, you know, a big black rubber gasket. Because you would imagine that these engines would get, if this is a hopper and it hops, then these engines might get a bit of movement. And having a gasket around there, would absorb some of the shock there of these engines firing. So that's the story I'm going to come up with and stick with. So if it doesn't work, we'll change our mind and paint it a different color. But right now, I want to just fill that in. Okay, the boring parade of tiny details continues, and I just whipped up this tiny little step to go in front of there, and I think once I paint it and rust it up like the others, it will fit in much better. But it covers, not only does it cover this gap, but it covers the logical problem of how you get out the door. Well, spring is just around the corner, and as all you well know, that's when a young man's fancy turns to thoughts of spring and to working outdoors, which means I can start doing big stuff outside. Hopefully that means finishing up Slimer, but the other thing I'm interested in is starting work on the base for the wonderful hopper here. And so what I did is I picked up a 2x2 square of particle board that I'm going to use as a base and build on that. I got the cheapest aquarium gravel I could find, which, don't worry about the color, I will be painting. Found a couple of neat set pieces here and here at Walmart. They're meant to go in fish tanks, but they will work just fine here. I need to sand down some seam work on these, but some instant interest, and they will be painted as well. So now I'm figuring out the contours of this base, and I just checked the rules at Wonderfest to make sure that I was still within the size restriction. They have a quite reasonable 24 by 18 by 24 height requirements, so that you're not bringing in horribly oversized models. But what I'm going to do is cut an irregular shape out of this with a jigsaw and attach these. I just need to figure out what the best layout for that's going to be, and then I'll start working on it. Okay, like all great experiments, this has the potential to either turn out really nice or go really wrong. Giving my batting average, I'm saying it's about 50-50. So let's find out. Got the base cut out. I've got it smoothed out. I've got where I've decided where these rocks are going to go. And what I want to do now is mix up a bit of epoxy with some of this gravel and kind of lay it around. I need to mark out, I want a little water feature here, so I need to mark that out, and then I'm going to use the epoxy sculpt to kind of make a crater. Okay, don't pay attention to any of the color. I know it's quite shocking, the pink and the orange. This is all base underlayment. We'll spray over top of it to, basically all I'm doing is making rises and stuff like that. I'm going to let this dry overnight, and I'll come back to it tomorrow and start laying the big paint on it. Got my nice crater here. I'm going to mask that off and make it a pond of water. So I need to let the epoxy sculpt dry overnight, and then I need to mask it off so that I don't spray it with any of the texture paint. Okay, we're back on the never-ending journey of getting the finish for the Derelict, and this is not bad. This is what this is metallizer gunmetal, the non-buffing variety. There you go. And it is sprayed over the hammered rattle can, and then, like people had been telling me all week online, put a piece of this cling wrap over, sit it for a few seconds, and then pull it back up. And then after that dries for a bit, I am still going through it with the Scotch pad and putting the definite lines in it, and I'm liking it. I really am. The problem is this edge. Every time I spray it, I got to keep a wet edge, or I'm going to have to overlap a bunch, is what I'm saying, because it only is effective where the paint is the heaviest. Where the paint is the lightest, where you spray, it does not pull up when you put the cling wrap down on it. So it's just going to be a matter of soaking the dang thing and wrapping it with the cling wrap and then pulling it back off. So I think I am ready to carry this over to that. We will find out. I think I've got to make sure I've got enough of the tape, or enough of the paint here, and I've got enough of the cling wrap, and I've got rubber gloves on, or vinyl gloves on. So this is a very messy procedure, and it's going to be interesting to see if I can carry it all over the whole surface. I think I'll start with the head and then work my way around to see how well it goes. As you can see, I am gloved up and I am ready to do this, because this is a lot of not only enamel spray but metallizer enamel spray, which I seem to be particularly sensitive to. So gloves on, mask on, fan running. I'm going to try this and see how it goes. Wish me luck. I'm firmly convinced this ship is going to end up killing me. I still don't like it. I don't know why, but I still don't like it. Of course, the irony is not lost on me that I am trying to screw up a finish with metallizers, with chromes and enameled metallics, which are my nemesis. If I was trying to keep this clean, it would turn out like this. If I'm trying to mess it up, it turns out like this. I'm not wild about it. I don't know what it's lacking, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm going to go jump on the internet and see if I'm doing anything wrong, but basically what I'm doing is, spraying it on here and laying the plastic down, giving it a good, 10 count, and then pulling it back up. And it's not... There are isolated spots that it's very nice. That's an isolated spot where it's very nice. There's another one that I really like. But I can't get that consistently all over the ship. The paint is drying too fast. I've tried slowing down the air. I've tried using more thinner in it. It's just drying. And even when I do it with the brush, look, this is dry. I'm touching it. This was seconds ago. I just took the mask and the gloves off. And it's dry. And it shouldn't be. Paint, especially enamel paint, should be wet. It should take a lot longer. Oh, this is bugging me and I don't know what to do. Okay, I am done with this, at least for this evening, maybe for all times. I just don't feel like I'm going to get any further with, any better with it. I keep coming round and round and doing the same thing and expecting different results. It's the definition of insanity. So I've got a nice mottled surface on it, and it's time to step away from it for the night and come back tomorrow and see how I feel about it then. But for right now, I just don't see that I'm getting what I'm hoping for. I'm kind of liking that. I know onion peel is something you're not supposed to ask for on a model, but I'm kind of liking it. And most importantly, it's not straying too far from how the petals are turning out, because the petals I'm happy with, and I don't want to have to do anything to make them match what I'm doing here. So gonna let this sit for the rest of the night. Again, I cannot stress strongly enough how these are not the finished colors. But I am just laying some textures down and hoping that in the morning I can turn around and paint them better. But for right now, I think tonight I'm going to try to lay in this pond color, which is not necessarily going to be blue. It could be anything. Well, good morning. It's Sunday. Work continues on the small, tedious stuff on the hopper. It sounds tedious, but it's all good. Last night I installed all of the rest of the lights covers, the photo etch that goes over all of the headlights. And something that's kind of bugged me for a while that I'm looking at again, and I'm wondering if it's not a better way to handle it, is the joint of the chrome insert to the rest of the spotlight. It's kind of a clunky joint there, and I thought, well, what if I just took some wire and wrapped it around and made it look like some sort of gasket. Here, I'm trying to put a light on it so you can see it a little bit better. And I cut one just as a sample, and I can see that it's a little short, but I like how let's get the camera over there. I like how that looks. It makes it look a little bit more industrial. So now that I know how long the pieces need to be, I think I'll go ahead and cut the 6 that I need for the base. I'm not going to worry about the ones. I'm not going to worry about the ones for here. These are just for the ones on the base, but I think it makes it look a little bit more funky and functional. And we'll go from there. I also filled in some hoses here and along the back side of that, just to kind of fill up some space and some, you know, cover up some holes. Well, welcome back. It is Sunday afternoon, and it's time to get back to working on the bases and the Derelict. Now, I slept on the Derelict all night. Yes, it made a lump in the pillow, but after coming back to it with a new set of eyeballs on it, I'm quite happy with how it looks. I was not enjoying how it was turning out last night. In the cold light of day, it is looking much better. So if I'm to do anything more on that, I may try something. It certainly won't be any more acrylic or any more enamels. That was just making me nuts yesterday with the masks and the gloves and all of that noise. So I might try some polyscale aluminum, which is a lighter coat, because that's the other thing, is it's coming out kind of overall a little bit dark. So I'm going to try out a test case with saran wrap and the aluminum and see if I can put a highlight or brighter coat on that, and maybe it'll work better with the water-based products than it did last night with the enamel base. And secondly, it is Sunday afternoonish. This is the best time of the day to take this outside and put a couple coats of color, actual color on it, not just this noise. And I have taped off the epoxied pond, which is the lesser-known sister of Amy pond, epoxy pond. Okay, the two colors I have chosen for my base are rustic umber, and desert bisque. And those are in the textured, Rust-Oleum textured paint line, much like other ones I have used, but I'm going to use these as a base coat and then work other colors into it. And I know I go on an awful lot about time management, but really when you're working on multiple models, boy, listen to those crows, sorry. But when you working on multiple models at the same time, time management is how you get anything done. So I can put a coat of paint on these and then go off and do something else while it's drying. Okay, hopefully you can see some of the difference in here now. This has had a goodly unplastering of both colors. Brown, the darker brown as a base, and then the highlight color out in the plains. But this is going to be out here the rest of the day because it's a sopping mess. That stuff will obliterate any detail you have, so it does high hiding. It will fill in anything, but it also spits out of that can awfully fast and at high pressure, and you can empty a can before you even think about it. So we're going to let this sit. The momentous day has arrived, and I'm planning on calling this thing done. I went over it one last time with flat aluminum polyscale, just to lighten it back up because it had gotten a bit dark with all of the stuff I had done on it last night. And really liking some of those textures. I think that's coming out very nice. So you can learn things from the internet. This was what was suggested to me, to use this saran wrap solution, and it was clumsy. It took some getting used to, but it did seem to do the trick. So now I can put it on its stand and attach the pedals to it. That's the next thing. And then I want to give it some sort of overall finish. I mean, whether it's going to be a satin or a flat, it needs to be an overall finish before I can attach those guys. Doing a little work on the tiny Jupiter 2. It's getting blown out by the overhead lamp, but just an indication, really. Would have been just fine, to quote Stevie Nicks. Not trying to set the bar high on painting Jupiter 2s. That needs to get a satin coat on it. And then we will be ready to start attaching the pedals. Okay, the pedals are all in. Now, if you're like me, you are wondering, how do I make sure that the pedals are all open to the same extent? Yes, you can put the pedals to the metal, as they say. The pedals only push in so far, but how do you make sure that they will be symmetrically open? And I think I've come up with something that might work for you as well. I've taken a brand new roll of frog tape. This is an unused roll, so it is a constant size. If you have an unused roll of tape or can go out and buy one, you will have something exactly the same size. Now what I've done is I have brought it up and made it flat to the point where all of the points are resting on it. See, all the points are resting on the edge of the tape. And then I've stuck a rubber band around the outside to hold them all in place. So I know that if that roll of tape is level, if it is parallel to, let me just lay this down, try to do this with one hand without busting the neck off is the neat trick. If this is parallel to this, all of these are parallel to that. When you roll it, it works the same way. Parallel to that. And then just a rubber band to hold it in place. Then all of these pedals are open to the same width, same openness. So what I'm going to do now is tack the bottom ring in place. That area right in there that for some reason a lot of people forget to paint, but it needs to be painted as well. What I'm going to do is put in some 1-minute epoxy around all of those joints and basically make a ring that will um, fill in a lot of that, but that will lock all those pedals in the open position. When they're closed and everything's closed together, it's easy enough because all the points touch, and closed is closed. But open is measured in degrees, and to make sure that that is a consistent level of open across all of them, that's what you got to do. Because just sitting it here and hoping that it rests on the balls is not exactly accurate enough, because some of the way the plastic goes on the tips of those balls, it may not rest exactly right. So I think the best way to determine, and here is my level, and I'm just putting the level across that roll of tape, and you can see that it is level, and the table's level, so I know that that works. So I know that everything here is parallel. So now that I've got that in here, I'm just going to get some 1-minute epoxy and get it into those joints. Okay, the hopper is back on the table, and while I've got it back here, I've decided it's time to touch up some paint that has gotten flaked or banged up or otherwise abused in its many travels. So we're doing that, and as you can see, this has had a good amount of time to set up. So I think I'm going to take the take this and de-tape roll it and see how well all of those little petals have stayed. Well, something that's been neglected this weekend, but been working on nonetheless, is the stand, or the plaque stand for the Dawn of Justice Batmobile. I'm calling it the not the Superman v Batman Dawn of Justice long title that it is, but just the Dawn of Justice, or the DOJ Batmobile, and it was simply a piece of that particle board that I got at the same time I got the other one done, and I've sprayed it to within an inch of its life with that texture, stone texture that looks a lot like asphalt. So it's a good start. And I think this is where we're going to call it for the hopper for this weekend. You may not see a lot of difference between this weekend and past weekends, but it's all in the small, tiny details. Like tightening up paint jobs and going around things and tightening up the paint and adding some last minute details like those covers for all of the lights, and then on the lower one the gaskets for all the covers. So it's like building a house. It looks real impressive the first day you put up walls, but once you start doing all the tiny stuff, it gets less and less obviously impressive, but nonetheless it looks all the better for the work you do. And then here is the troublesome Derelict. Yes, I'm letting that, taking the rubber band off, but I'm still letting the roll of tape kind of hold those guys apart. I'm going to let that cure overnight. I'm not going to do anything further as far as getting those aerials in, because once this sits up, I'm going to hit it with a dust coat, and I don't want to get any dust coat on those clear bits. So that's going to set up, and I got to shoot this from space. It's so big. That's how far away I have to get. Of course, the big work for the week was doing these two bases, the Batman base, which is very, very minimal, and this base for the hopper, which is somewhat more minimal, less minimal, some more maximal. But you can see I've got some debris and some rocks and some other features working there, and we're going to let this dry because this is all of that textured paint. So before I put any actual color in it, I am going to let that dry at least overnight. So that's it for the build for this weekend. Well, how do you like your epoxy, Lou? I like my epoxy on the rocks. Basically what I've done here is I've just, and don't mind the color again, but I've just taken some of the 5-minute epoxy and mixed it up, and then threw some of these aquarium stones in it to get a nice little flat base of rocks and stones and things like that. So I've just peeled it off of the plastic, and I am laying it here just to show you, you know, instant decoration for the base. Now, of course, they need to be painted a decent human color, but they're pink from right now, which is not too far off on this alien landscape. They can be actually any color. They don't have to be earthbound colors. So we're going to experiment on those. And that's going to do it. We're coming to the end of another weekend's worth of work. And the days are getting longer. The sun is staying out. It's warming up. Things can be done outside that couldn't be done before. And that's going to bring us to the topic of the next big 1-to-1 scale model. And we're going to look at it exactly like it were a model. That's in the coming months. I'll keep you apprised about that. But it's a little bit of a retirement present to myself. But anyway, back to what we got done this weekend. We finally got a texture on the Derelict. Something that I can live with. Something I think is going to turn out just neat. I got the tiny Jupiter 2 done. I've got... didn't get, you know, exactly completely done with the Derelict, but I am mostly done. Got a lot of detail work done on the hopper. Very happy about that. Got the base started for that. And sometimes, you know, you lose a lot of time figuring out how things are going to go. I don't always have things planned out on paper before I start. I treat a lot of these things like sculpture. I put them on a base and chip away anything that doesn't look like it should be there. So, until next week when we chip away again, this is Lou saying have a good week, be good to each other, and I'll see you around the table next week.